We're going to settle into circulation to support our lower back and our hips. And so what I need you to have is your bolster set up on a roll blanket, and then on top of the bolster is a blanket that's folded to the height that's going to feel comforting for your neck. Have a wall space nearby, an easy reach. We're going to do quite a bit of wall support for our chest and shoulders. So let's begin with our seat in front of the short edge, our short end of your bolster, and then take a couple blocks besides your mat and your sandbag and your therapy ball. If you have that, we'll use that as well. But what you'll need to begin with is to let the legs release down so the feet are together, and then just guide the blocks under the legs. Okay, we'll figure out where they go under the legs in a moment. They could be just below the thigh. I find just that hinge at my knee, it's a perfect spot for a block to go beneath. Take a belt buckled up in a big loop. Now be ambitious with your loop. You never know how much you're going to need, so might as well start big. And then, if I can find the loop, I'm going to bring it around my head, my ribs. It's just going to drop down to my hips, because as I take the loop, I'm going to stretch it forward to my feet. So I'm just going to scoop up my relaxed feet, right? They're just like this, the palms, like if they're my palms together, same kind of thing. It's like a foot prayer, I guess. Pull the buckle so it's an easy reach for your hand, and you're going to guide the belt to the eyebrows of the buttocks and tighten it up. Okay, so you'll know that once you release back to lie on the bolster, you're going to probably guide your feet a little closer towards the groins, and then snug with the belt. Get your sand nearby for extra grounding. And then as you settle the back on the bolster, you get to decide how high the blocks are. And I like to contour them at the upper outer thigh. That's my preference. And I have to kind of push into them so I know they won't fall over. And as I lower back my head, I just decide if this is the right amount of height for the blocks, right? They have 3 different settings, right? You know, you could find them lower, that might work better for you. But it's interesting to push into the belt with the feet and feeling that interesting layer of the foot. I mean, the ankle doesn't have like the web space like our hand would. I mean, we don't have a thumb down there, but I want you to kind of feel where the top of the foot feels that belt and the pulley system. And before you place that sand on, be sure that the blockage is okay here on the legs. Okay, now I use the sand either across the ribs, horizontal, or from heart to belly. Placing a little bit of weight. If you find that you don't want to use the weight in the beginning, that's fine. But let the waist center. Feel that range of motion beginning in our lower back into the pelvis, and then it's pretty simple into the hips. Okay, so find a place of releasing to the arms out to the sides, and feel that not only are they clearly arms that move, but it's the chest that stretches. It's like you're trying to gently press that sand, and then just trust that the gravitational pressure of the weight will start to loosen up and give you a deeper stretch in your breathing muscles. So relaxing your eyes, just feeling the abdominal area, maybe the rib area, the breathing tracts in the body. Breathing in through the nose. Gently opening in the chest. And gather your attention on the even rhythm of your breath. And just feel if that pulse of breath is high up in the chest area or if it's starting to move a little bit more into that midsection, right where the ribs intersect, and maybe a little lower to the belly. And just visualize that surrounding into your back muscles. Take a few more moments. You are optional. You can have your arms reach back so they can hover. You can interlace your fingers and strive a little more with the arms. That's fine. We'll be doing plenty of that coming up. So this is a good one just to set the circulation in the ribs, in the belly, just settling in. With the shoulders gently setting back onto the bolster, they kind of creep in towards the spine. It's okay to exaggerate that opportunity to squeeze the shoulders back in and just feeling some of these front lines in the right into the bicep tendon. You can kind of feel these areas that have a little struggle kind of peeling open. I mean, they're realistically forward and down most of the day. So just giving them some light, some energy. As we start to shift, you want to just stay relaxed on the bolster. That's the key when we go into the next one, is just letting your head relax back. So if you need the blanket higher, that's fine. You want less height under your head, go for it, shift it. But let's take the sand away and then unbuckle. And then feeling the knees pointing up and slide the feet in towards the seat. And then guide the belt off of your thighs so it's not going to interfere in the next shape. Okay, so we're going to get a ball. And I want you to take your ball so it's at the upper outer left thigh. If you don't happen to have one of these therapy balls, you can always use like a wadded up towel or blanket, just wadded up in the same kind of size as the ball. I think a block is okay, but they don't feel that good pushing into your thigh when you're leaning deeper into it. So we're going to lift up the right leg, cross the right ankle to the left knee. So you're in a figure 4 pose. And then I like to just gently push the ball into that upper outer left thigh. So it is kind of feeling is connected towards my hip as I can. Push it in and then lean the knees both to the left and reach for the right knee with the left hand and pull. Okay, so you might find that you need to move the block aside. You might use the block under your right foot, or it might just be helpful to have it there. Might feel good. But you can also move the ball. If I trace it farther down the side of my left leg, it's a really intense stretch. So I'm good with monitoring kind of a basic, essential hip awareness here. I don't want to go further. So as I hold on to that right knee, I might guide the right foot higher up on the left thigh. Kind of interesting to try that tactic as well. Just caution with the knee sensation, right? If it starts to feel too much, holding it tighter is probably not going to make that go away. If it hurts, it would be change your shape, right? You might have to come back center and then do a little bit of rebounding work because you're on a ball, a little bit back and forth. I kind of like that too. That motion is great. I'm relaxing my right arm today on this one. I want to really focus and tune into my right hip. The right foot relaxes. The left foot is on its side. So it's not pushing down to the floor as far as the bottom of the left foot. But as you're holding the right leg, letting your eyes relax and breathe. Feel the lower belly move with the breath. Don't get too much compression with the right thigh that you can't emit that force of movement in the lower belly. You just kind of feel if it's capable of gradual motion Now let go of the knee, and I want you to press the right inner thigh just for a moment with the right hand. If you like to use a block instead, that's fine, but sometimes it's good to use what you got, right? Your hand. If the wrist doesn't like this, you can make a fist. That might be a little more adaptable for some of us. And then as you come back out from that, just bring the right foot down and take the ball to the right, under the right buttock. Lift up the hips in a little bridge pose, and then just push down into the ball into the right rear, and then massaging into your glute. So you'll find that pressure across. So I try to find it pretty high up onto the glute. So when I'm lying back, it's not like, it's really going to be kind of high and then a little to the medial, right to the border. And it's okay if you just lie on it, right? You don't necessarily have to make these movements. Sometimes just gliding across the tissue. You can step both feet down. You don't have to have the foot crossed over. I would play around with the right leg kicking up, reaching your hips over to the right side, and using pressure and movement to glide across the tissues, right? And bring more fluid into these kind of tight areas. It's drawing fluid into the area when you roll on it, right? It makes the sensation spark up and fluid is drawn. So a little bit of a better range of motion kind of can come from this self-massage work, okay? And then as you press and center down, keep the ball on the right side of the upper outer right thigh. I'm going to reset for me on my bolster. Left ankle crosses to the right knee. Lean the knees over to that right side and hold on to the left knee with the right hand. And off you go into the second side. Yeah, if the ball is kind of a little pressed in under your rear too much, just shift it a little to the side. I don't mind having that connection with it, like from doing that self-massage work, it's stuck a little bit closer in. I think that feels kind of useful, right, for the circulation I'm aiming for. Okay, and it's obviously going to be a restricted sensation area because it's into the joint and it's in between like levers and core. But it's all good stuff, right? Going with the flow. So holding on to that left knee, left arm can be down, or if you like something a little more exciting, you can stretch it to the left side of your face and feel that reach. Some people like to reach back and hold on to their bolster. And I sometimes like to slide my fingers into the bolster handle. That could be kind of nice too. So as you lean into that right side, be sure that the ball is supporting you. If it's too far under and you feel like you're kind of sliding out of it, just bring it a little farther to the side of that right hip. You don't need a bounce in it, but if you do a little bit of movement, it's okay. So letting the hips gently stretch on that left side. Breathe. It only helps. Let go of the left knee and then take the ball to the left buttock. Move it on over. Okay, so you want to put weight into the ball. You can keep the ankle still crossed. This time I want you to get a feel now of the left knee moving out. So we're going to kind of blend two things that we did on the first side. You kind of a little bit of attention to it maybe. And use that left hand to press the left inner thigh out and kind of see how that ball pressure helps you kind of rotate onto remember we're working here with ball and socket joint area. So it's kind of interesting, right, when you add a ball. But when it has some movement and some play with it, so you can make that little bit of pressure. Don't overdo it. Just feel like you're guiding it to move out. Okay. And then you can start to roll, or you've already started rolling, I don't know. Okay. So create movement, maybe kick the left leg up, get a feeling of that pressure and that motion gliding across. little bit of cross fiber movement pattern. It's kind of nice to let the hip get that fluctuating pressure, right? So it's on the left glute, so we could say it's really gluteal is what we're working with, like, but as you press, if it doesn't feel like it's that intense, that's okay. The softer ball is nice because it frees the skin around the musculature. It's working with the mobility of the skin, right? The dermal layer. So that's why it brings fluids there. More lymphatic massage. I think that the softball is really good for that. Okay? Doesn't have to hurt. Okay, you're doing something good for us. It's not a restorative concept, I don't think. Okay. So now as you start to shift out, we're going to take a big change. So we've got the lower body, a little awareness here. Now we're going to kind of branch it up. So I want you just to take the ball aside and reach the feet in a little closer towards your seat. Let your arms stretch back overhead. Windshield wiper the knees, but try to keep the feet, they're going to shift. So it's going to be the side of the foot, the inside of the foot's going to move. Just a little bit of shifting through the glutes. If you need to walk the feet further down, that's okay. That might feel better on some of our hips. Okay. Now we're going to take a transition here where you're just going to roll to a side, any side you want to roll to. And we're going to press into the hands to come on up. And we're going to take our bolster to the wall. Change your route today. Okay. So take the bolster. The distance from the wall is going to depend on your arm reach and the comfort of that. So what I want you to do is space it away from the wall as if you had like 2 bolsters. You don't need 2 bolsters for this stuff. Take your blankets and just get them stacked in their nice little, 2 stack the blankets off to the side because we'll use them in a bit. And I want you to take a seat on your bolster and it's near the wall. So you're going to try to gauge how far from the wall do I need to be to reach to it and be able to twist. This is really individual. So I would make sure that you're really not too close, but you can just touch it. So your finger pads can touch it, the heel of the hand, not necessarily, but I don't want to be too close. Otherwise I'll jam up in my shoulder, but I don't want it so close it's going to push my shoulder back in towards my chest. So let's just kind of feel how we can get there. And you might find you get sort of in a good spot and you need to move your bolster a little further away. So this one's worth doing, but it takes a little bit of inquiry, for personal inquiry, because I can't say you should all be, 2 feet away, or it's just going to be different for everybody. So take the left leg to stretch out, left heel down. Right foot draws to the left thigh and make sure there's something under your right leg, right? Could be a ball, right? I think this ball is probably not high enough for me right now, so I might use the block. We'll see what happens here. But here we are. So we're in a seated prep for seated side angle, okay? So left leg is out to about kind of 10, 11 o'clock on that side. And I know the wall is going to be part of the practice, but I have to be careful not to twist to it right in the beginning. So I want to be away from the wall, facing away. My seat is up on some height. It's easy enough to move your bolster further away if you decide not to have it this close. But take a sandbag with the pressure on the right upper thigh, sand it so it's right up next to the hip. It's a hip hugger. And then we'll take an option of a belt. I'm not going to use the belt on this, but you could use it under your left foot and hold. I like to be kind of strand free sometimes. So strand free would be, I'm going to use block besides my left leg because it has 3 heights, 3 settings. So if it's too low and I need something a little higher, I could just turn it up. It's kind of easier to go. I don't have to use my wrist, just kind of hands free. So I want you to start out with leaning into, actually, no, let's start with a twist. So you're going to twist to the right, left hand to the right leg, doesn't have to be the knee, and you're going to stretch the right hand back to the wall. Okay. Now there's likely going to be some little bit of challenge here with the ribs turning. the challenge for me is this left thigh is out and I don't want it to slide in, right? So my right foot touching towards it. And if the left thigh gets closer to my right foot, that's part of the reason I have this border with my foot. So hold gently with the left hand on the right leg, maybe the knee for some of you with longer limb. And then when you turn, really refresh the circulation of the shoulder. If it's tough to do this, you can either get closer to the wall, you can bring your hand higher up on the wall, bring your hand further down, right? You could be farther away from the wall if it's too much. But see if you can just be here for a few more moments here with this turn. Turn is in the thoracic, right? So careful. The bolster should help you keep that lumbar nice and extended and arched. Okay, I mean, you could wear like a back brace on this one and do it pretty well too. Just know it helps protect the back. Okay, take a deep breath in. And as you exhale, you're gonna tip over to the left side, bring the left hand down to the block or the elbow on the block and stretch the right arm gradually up and towards the left side. So I say these things like towards, further, things like that. You might want to work with just the reach pattern. And if it's strenuous in the shoulder right now, focus on the side stretching. So that could mean your right arm goes behind you and rests. And you can go a little further down, maybe left elbow can lower down on the block. You can always take it down a notch to the second setting. This is probably where I end up. But I've got to keep this torso area still kind of highlighting the reach of my ribs. This is a tricky one, right? I don't want to sink. And I also need to sink a little bit into the left side to stretch my right side. So let the weight lean to that left sitting bone here. Okay. Okay, feel the ribs kind of reach up, arching, breathing. Nice work. So come on up. And then we'll take the final twist on this side. So you're going to move the ball or block away from under that right leg. And you're going to take that left leg up and cross it over the right thigh. So here's what's kind of interesting is when I take the twist this time to the left, I'm going to hook the right elbow to the left knee. I'm going to try to keep the sitting bones. Okay, so if I gently press down to my sitting bones, it helps fulfill that arch in my lumbar spine as well. The sitting bone centered. And then as I reach the left hand back, I just go to what's an appropriate edge for me. So for me, trying to move my left arm further back on the wall towards the left side is probably a little too aggressive right now. So I'm just going to reach with my left hand, hook with that right elbow, try to lift with the ribs, breathe. Excellent work for the organs here. So feeling the focus in the lungs, really that digestive tract. Okay, come on out. All right, so let's take the other side. We're gonna get both sides and then we can kind of smooth it out and be easy. But for now, let the right leg stretch out. Take the sand over to the left thigh. I know I'm making a big deal about nothing, huh? Okay, so right leg is out to about 1, 2 o'clock. Ball under the left knee. If it feels like you want to block there, it's okay. But you know what is kind of interesting is you might find, oh, this one side feels like it sunk pretty fast, right? The knee went down a little faster. So just noticing, you're trying to work on assessment every time you do class for yourself. Okay, so try to keep that inner lift, no matter how it's going. Attitude, okay. So as I lift up, I keep that nice arch in my spine, and I just turn to the left. All right, what's turning is my ribs. Breathe. Right hand to left leg. If it's just tough to get the knee, that's okay. You can go just above the knee. Bring the left hand back and turn. And you're gonna feel like I was just turning this way. Well, yes, you were, but we're on the second side with the whole leg deal. Okay, so feel the connection here into the chest, right? And the shoulder and that complex. It's like the shoulder complexion. It, if you were to like kind of close your eyes and feel, it's very interesting, right? How do I feel this upper body, my connection from my chest, my breathing muscles, my shoulders? Whew, it's a lot. So just feel that right hand to the left knee, feel that rotation, breathing. Maybe let your head tilt a little bit side to side, which is just fine. Okay, now take off to the right leg. So you're going to lean to the right. You can bring a block over there. I know I got one over besides my right leg. I'm going to start it high up, bring my elbow to it if possible, and then start to lift up with that left arm. So try to keep that reach with that left side of the body. The left arm doesn't have to be up in the air. It could start behind your back, right? Even if we just had the arm turned a little bit and you didn't feel like you were stressing a lot, there's quite an intricate amount of detail that you're warming up into your shoulder and your chest. So yeah, give yourself a lot of credit for what you're up to here. So get a feeling here of that leaning with the right elbow, breathing. Again, you can lower the block down. It doesn't mean you get extra gold star today, but you might feel, oh, that's good, or maybe it's not good, right? In your lumbar. So you have to kind of make the decision all on your own. I'll help out with some ideas, but the idea here with the left hand maybe to my back is to kind of feel that low to mid back, kind of the thoracolumbar, maybe even let my hand touch it. Just try to create some space there. And you've got fingers, you got a hand, can really help out. Okay. Now, when you do come up, try to lift up through the crown of the head, reach up, and then take that right leg and cross it over. You're going to move the ball out from under the left knee. You're going to keep the sand on the left side, cross the right leg over, and then take your twist to the right side. Okay, so the left elbow to the right leg. It's a very compact position with the hips. And then as you turn, feeling that right hand back on the wall. Maybe the palm touches. Maybe it doesn't. Maybe it's your fingers turning. Some people like to do the shoulder clock, where you reach the hand so it could be straight up, or you can turn right over towards 3 o'clock if you want with your fingers. You can kind of get a little bit of a twist. But, keep in mind you're working with the shoulders, the chest, and it's weaved really nicely into your ribs. It doesn't hurt to use a wall for these twists. I think it's fabulous to use a wall for turning. Okay. All right, now when you come out on this side, let's just take a simple cross-legged position. And I want you to just take a seat, and you're going to take the right arm, so cross-legged comfort. You're going to take the right arm to reach up. I'm not going to mirror you. I'll do same side as you. And turn the palm back and bring the left hand up to that elbow. Left hand to right elbow. Stretch out through. You might get a feeling through that tricep. You might feel, oh, it's a lot into my shoulder. Okay, we're just going to do each side for a moment. Okay, and then switch to the other side. Right hand to left elbow. So press. So you're sitting up on your bolster. When you're pressing, your hand is pressing to stretch through the upper back of the arm. So press back. Feel that hand try to reach to the back. If you take too many years off of doing this one, you go, oh, geez. These tissues have kind of got a little dehydrated. Okay. Got to put some fluid back in there. I'm just speaking for myself. Okay. Shake it out. All right. Okay, let's come down off the bolster and we're gonna turn ourselves into side sagers. So slide the bolster a little further down from the wall and then stack up your blankets near the wall. And we'll take a right hip first next to the bolster. Get your sand on over next to your right knee. And then stretch the left leg back and place the ball to the inside of the left knee. And when I lean into the right side, I'm going to place my sand on my hip and let the legs feel some little bit of movement. So if you're too close to the wall, you can always just come on up, shift a little bit down a few inches. Sometimes that matters a lot. Right, head down to the blankets, pull them in, support yourself, and reach with that left arm. Yeah, take your time. If you are on the back of your head, that can feel really good. Yeah, I like to be, I think generally I've been moving more to the back of my head on this one. Yeah, it just feels easier on my neck. But if you're comfy on the side of your head, resting, you can have the left arm to the wall. You can have it along to the side. But getting that reach into the arms. Weight into the right hip. Breathing slow. And give a few moments to yourself with the arm relaxing. So maybe it stretches open the chest here, back behind you to the left. Or perhaps you let it relax down, the hand on the bolster. So I'm just going to start to feel my head so it's onto the side of the head, not onto the back so much. Just let that left hip, the hip flexor, gently stretch back. Okay, now before we come out, can you keep the tailbone in some motion, like scooping under? Can be like just a little degree of it, right? Just a little bit. And then just relax, neutral hips, neutral tailbone, not trying to anticipate curling under, flexing, those types of arch patterns. Just let it be. Okay, and then take the sandbag off and roll to your right hip. Use your left hand to push up and come back to a horizontal chest opener. We've been here before, but not today, so this will be nice. I like to use a block under my pelvis, but some of you might just go minus any block. You might have a really deep arch that you want to do, but I just slide the block on its lowest setting under my tailbone. So there might be a little space between the block and the bolster. My head back on the blankets, my arms stretch open. Just let the ribs gently release. You can definitely keep your knees in that hinge, right? And I also like the leg stretching down. This is where I'd want to go with it, but it depends on what my back is in the mood for. But it works okay if the block is under my tailbone. It works just fine. If it's still a little struggle in your back, just separate the feet a little bit more and that should ease it up. Okay, shoulders back, right? I'm trying to kind of squeeze them around my bolster. Elbows maybe kind of press a little bit into the bolster on the back side. Nice work, breathing. All right, now let's come into side sage on the next side. See if you can guide into it by just the sensory awareness of moving in the body without like our normal movement in our body is walking on our feet and getting things with our hands. So the whole experience should just be different than your regular existence. So it's kind of a nice thing to think of yoga as. When you lean to that left side, You might just feel, okay, my ribs are definitely pressed into the bolster. I get the ball under the right knee. That works good for me. Okay, and my side sheath of that right thigh gets the stretch. And then I just add the sand up to that exterior. Now, for some of you, it might be up on the ribs. With the sand, you might decide, oh, I want the sand higher. It feels like it's an efficient way to support this length here, kind of the webbing. Yeah, my arm really touches the wall. Quick on this side. So I've got to find a way to use the wall well. I don't want to be too close for comfort here. You want to find that you have some focus on reaching to the wall, right? So if the back of your head is resting on the blankets, if you're on the side of your head, maybe explore it a little bit with the breathing, circulation when you're leaning into that left side, breathing slow, expanding the rib cage. Okay, don't stress the knee. So if you're pushing the knee back and it feels stress on the inner and the outer, just bring it back closer to the left leg. Don't stress the knee. Okay, now as we start to come out, we can get a feeling of even the reach in the front of that right thigh. Okay, simple, easy does it, right? We try to remember that. Okay, now as we roll to the left hip, just push the sand away off to the floor. It doesn't go anywhere else. They don't levitate. Okay, lean to the left hip, push into the hip, and then come up and take the bolster forward on your mat away from the wall. And then let's take a position on all fours. So what you'll do is take a blanket, find the blanket that's the one that flattens out the back. So it's just a little bit of padding. Okay. Diane, every time I look at the screen and I see your picture, I think, is she gonna move? It's kind of a funny thing. It's the only time I've had class where I thought like that. Is she gonna smile or turn? Okay, so let's take it here. So we're now with our feet to the wall, okay? And we've got the bolster. I think this would be good for our back muscles, for our strength. So let's do this. We've done quite a bit of arm reaching. I think we've done a lot of this reach, turning. Let's take it so we get into our core. So we're gonna have the bolster right under the center body. So what does that mean, right? Well, I'm gonna reach for like I'm going out surfing, which I don't do, but I'm gonna lean into the bolster, right? But you can imagine that you want to have the bolster really at the little bit of the chest, right? Not at your throat. Like that's just not gonna be a good one. But my knees are on the blanket. And as I lower my elbows, reach them forward and down. Oh, it's kind of a different way to use the back muscles now. But let the feet touch into the wall. You can let the toes kind of hook under, try to get a feeling where the balls of the feet are, where there's a reasonable and effective stretch in my feet. It's not overdoing it, but it's a little bit of a stretch, right? Take them in different forms than they're used to. All right. Good, good, good. Okay. So if the elbows kind of start to slide out, that's part of living, right? In this kind of pose, their gravity's going to kind of draw them out. So I want you to try to keep that reach of the chest forwards. Breathing. And then as you start to bring your arms down by your sides, you're going to actually have to reach them back besides you, because if you bring them down, the floor is in the way. Stretch them back so you're in super woman pose here. So feel the arms reaching. I always wish on this one that I actually had something to hold on to. So I wish I was using like a Pilates reformer or something. But so I have my hands to reach back. Now as the shoulders motion back and towards the spine, breathe. And then let the hands stretch open through the fingers, the palms, elbows by the side, stretch the torso up. Okay, now feel how when you push into your hips, this really nice way to lengthen the front of the body. Okay, it's because the hips are stretching straight down, the hip flexors. Okay, now come back to table and just move your bolster off to the side yard and take the hips back into cow pose, and the tailbone reaches back and under, hollow the belly into cat, chin to chest. Great, now reach the hips straight down, arch the spine, inhale, chest up. And then exhale, stretch back to the hips. Keep the arms in that reach. Forehead maybe touches the floor. Inhale, feel that bit of movement through the spine, hips down, chest forward, heart lifting. And then let your head lower. But keep in mind the thick part of the body, right? The ribs, the spine, all the matter in the center. You're trying to get flexibility and motion there. I know we kind of think of it in our joints and our hips and our shoulders, but this mid body, kind of you want it to be very fluid here as you reach. Last one. Okay. Now as you come to table, grasp onto a block under each hand. Take your time, get the blocks. And we're going to place them, I'd say the second setting is a good startup. I don't think you want to go too low on these. But the blocks under the hands, bring the knees into touching, and then step the right foot forward between the blocks, or so. Maybe it's a little forward of the blocks. But the knee is aiming so the left quad stretches, so the front of the back thigh should feel. Okay, I'm starting to get into there. I'm getting there, going to every place that we can possibly to get a nice full body kind of run through, right? Cleanse. Okay, now as I kind of feel that launch, I'm going to lean back into a reverse lunge. So let the right foot flex, feel that reach. I do want you to try to feel this one in this approach. Because we're going to do brain float in a little bit, I want you to feel how when you go a reverse lunge, right? So this means my right foot flexes, so I can feel the heel on the ground. And I'm trying to use gravity to help stretch out the back link of the leg. That's what we'll call them, back link. It's a back link. It's a link into a foot and a link into a hip. Okay, now link along here. So as you reach through that right knee, now you want to reach so the body goes with you, not just like the knee is by itself, right? When I lunge, I can feel my back starting to stretch a little bit. But even better, toes under left foot, lift up the knee, take some time to get the wall to help you out here. So the wall should be kind of a little springboard. Okay, so feel that lunge, caution, make sure the knee is in a good spot. Maybe just above the ankle where you're targeting strengthening all through here. Just simple, nothing overdoing it, no high lunges or too excited, just simply bend. Kind of coach your hip into stability. Push off that left foot and bring it to the right foot, that is. Right foot. So they're about hips distance. So I got a little spacing with my feet. And when I take this forward fold, I'm going to try to let my hips lift up and let my head lower down. Okay, hold onto your elbows. Let the spine stretch. Let your head nod from side to side. Now really let the waist, I think the back waist is what you can feel lengthening. It's kind of hard to feel the front waist. It's because it's casual. it's it's front casual moments, right? And so you do want to be encouraging to your body to kind of let go too. So just let the weight of your head release down. Breathing. Maybe nod your head. A little bit of purposeful movement with your head side to side. Breathing. Okay, now let go with the hands on the elbows. Just let go. Bring the hands up to the blocks. Now remember, the blocks can go all the way up to this height. They don't have to be low. And then step the right foot back. Okay, so get a reach. So you're feeling that reach back to the wall. And, you know, however the difference in the sides, you might find, this is interesting. Maybe your front hip feels different. We're coming to the second side from a different stance. We're high up in the stance. So kind of going backwards. So likely the hip is going to feel different when the knee is up. Okay. But feel that left knee kind of stacked up over the ankle. Usually it's not exactly stacked. You think it is, but it's probably a little further back than you want it to be. So give yourself a little bit more of that reach of the left knee. Forward, forward, breathe. Okay. See if you can keep the front of that back thigh with length, which might mean you move your chin a little forward, because remember, everything matters, right? It's not just my waist and my leg, it's also my chest. This is the stuff that's challenging when we get older, right? It's that upper body, that round. So try to push and use that amount of awareness into your core. It's only temporary, just these little cycles of sensation and strengthening and stabilizing are good stuff. I think it all matters a bit. Okay. And then if it doesn't, it felt good while I did it. Okay, so lower the back knee, feel the right foot touch to the wall. So some of us may have the heel towards the wall, some of us just the ball of the foot. You sort of want to be careful on the knee here. So feeling how your foot touches the wall is probably going to affect your knee a little bit. So if the top of the foot is down, that feels better versus the toes under. You have to choose, but sometimes the knee down is fine to do, but it's how we're connecting up into our hip flexor, our glutes. Some people like to kind of get a little bit of a squeeze into their rear to protect around the hip and the knee. Some people feel that's helpful. So you can always try it and just see, does that feel more strength? You could give it a squeeze with the muscles. And then as you start to lean back to that reverse lunge, remember the left foot is lifting down through the heel, it just kind of rolls and the foot flexes. I guess it's not a true heel roll, but you kind of try to fold forwards. Okay. So the hands are reaching with the blocks forward. The chest starts to lower down. See if you can be okay with just the right amount, not too much. Okay, now as we start to lean a little forward, you're going to get a hold of your bolster. I know, nice work. This is a little complicated of a sequence today, I have to admit. So, good job so far, huh? All right, so the bolster's under the thigh, and we're going to walk the left foot, so the bolster's horizontal, under your left leg on the mat. Walk the left foot toe heel to the right side of your mat, and then reach the hips forward. Think about coming into pigeon, since you think of this as a hip opener. Try to get the hips to reach. Like, okay, close your eyes, like, where's the hip? Okay, hips reach. And then you can lower down. You can have your blocks under your elbows. You can have the elbows on the floor. If you have another bolster, you can always put your elbows on that or your blankets. Now, for this one, we only have one blanket under the knee, which I kind of like, actually. So the foot at the wall could be a nice influence into the hip, into the left hip, right? The right foot pushes a little bit. You can Notice the left hip sensation. Breathing. Kind of reorganize the spaces that you breathe into when you go into the forward folds. Forward hinging, so feel the back space expand. And now see if you can shift to the second side via the arch of the spine. So instead of me just tipping my weight on my left rear, I'm going to try to anticipate reaching my ribs a little forward, arch my spine. Then walk the hands back on the blocks. For me, I like to have blocks to help me get up. And then swing the right leg and kind of play with it. So the leg swings forward. And then I just swap the leg that's in front. Right knee down, left leg stretches back. Transition so the hip on the back leg is reaching the front of the left hip. Love doing this one for my back leg as much as the front leg. It's all good things. So as I feel where the arch is through the spine, you could stay in high pigeon, right? So king pigeon is what they call this one, king pigeon. King pigeon would be my foot back towards my foot towards my head, but you know, we'll use this one. Okay. We'll call it pre-king pigeon. So as you lean down into that right hip, you're gonna let the elbows lower. Now, if I go lower to the floor, it's probably gonna feel more of a stretch, right? So you might decide, well, maybe higher on some blocks or a blanket or bolsters is better for you to kind of release into. I don't want you to feel like you're grinding your teeth while you're doing the shake. So you do have to kind of make a choice. Like, okay, that's a balance for me. Have a little bit in between the two, maybe. Maybe you're great with the elbows down. Okay, but since we do quite a bit of things coming up with the extremities and their influence back to the vital organs here, this is kind of a bit of a pressurizing, it's like a little pressure cooker here for my right hip. Kind of marinating my hip. Now, when you do begin to come up, right, feel the chest reach, even if it seems like it's 5% of its maximum, that's okay. It's not easy to come up this way out of the back muscles, and maybe take that pre-king pigeon approach, lifting up the heart. Okay, now as you can tell, the back has quite a bit of that extension. I mean, it is spine extension, but we kind of feel like it's compression, but it's helpful for our back to be here. So we're going to add that with the bolster under our pelvis next. So I want you to let the weight shift into your right hip, swing the left leg forward, and then take your blocks off to the side yard, and you're just going to turn. So you're going to take a little walk onto the other side of the bolster. I mean, you really get to know your bolster in this class, don't you? Okay, different ways to sit and lean on a bolster. Okay, take a blanket behind you. So the blanket's low. It could be lower than this if you don't want that much curve in the neck. You'll find out, won't you? Okay, so we're going to get ready for brain float variation. So I want you to have your belt nearby. And what we'll do first is we're going to do knees to chest. So you have space away from the wall. You don't want to kick the wall on this. Don't try to get too close to it. So you're going to be in the center of the bolster as you lower back. So you can see that tailbone is definitely at the edge. But in the beginning, on your back, on the bolster under the pelvis, maybe just do a couple knees to chest. Just alternate. Let the legs swing down. Maybe it touches the wall. You have a little bit of spring. That kind of feels good, actually. It feels nice, floating in my spine. So you could scoot closer to the wall. You might decide, oh, the wall is overrated. It's up to you. But take a few moments where this moves the hip up, and then it moves the other hip up a little bit. And then you bring the knees in, and you start to shift your hips side to side. And then take a belt and make a big loop. All right. So since we did a little knee to chest, what I want you to take now is to have your belt, and you want to connect it. Okay. So you got a big loop under the right foot. And as the left leg lowers down, the wall is nice so that the foot can be, it could be straight up, right? You want to have that foot position. So if you do like using the wall, maybe scoot down a little bit so that you can touch the wall with your left foot. Doesn't have to be like up the wall, but it could be, I guess. You could put like a blanket under the heel if you want to make it exact, but just touching it's probably enough. Okay, sand is going to make the leg longer, right? It's not going to make it shorter to the wall. So if you feel like you're just touching the wall, this will add to it. So if I have a sandbag on the top of the left thigh, I'm going to just keep that pressure. Yep. It can go across the thigh horizontal. It doesn't have to go straight down. Now, as you hold on to that loop, you're going to reach the belt to the back of your head, to the shelf at the back of your head. Now, don't make it too short here. You don't want it too short. You want to feel like your leg can be vertical. Okay? And if your leg is swinging quite a bit back and you like that hamstring event, go with it. Yep, I find that I have a little bit of hamstring pulling, but I really like the feel of the calf. That's my personal interest in this one. And also the proper amount of circulation around my back and my knee. So I don't want to hyperextend. You can even just use your fingers to lightly brush the side of the knee and just make sure that it's not twisting, right? And it's just in its simple composition. Right? Again, don't flatten it out entirely, no hyperextending. But, kind of feel, what is that about? You can feel muscles stretching. Arms can be out to the side. If you're not a fan of using the belt at the back of your head, you can also place the belt to your hands and stretch the arms back with your head on the blanket. This is another option, okay? And you can always come out of brain float and try that anyway. But just feeling the circulation into the back line of the leg, right leg, the front of the left leg. Let's give a full amount of focus here. Inhaling slow. Empty the lungs. Gonna steer the circulation into your neck, stretching through the back line of the leg, all the way through the right side of the back. Now, as you bring the hands to the back of your head, just maybe get one hand to hold the belt at the back of your head and one hand to take the sand. Just let it go. And then I just bring both hands back and change the leg that's up. Again, you might want to bend both knees enough so that the transition is easy as the right leg lowers down. If you're a little concerned about your knee, well, everyone should have some awareness around how the knee health is. You might feel the right foot pushing into the wall, could be nice through the ball of the foot. Right. Then you bring some pulley of circulation up to the sides of the knee, right? But not required, right? If just letting the leg relax is better for you. Now take your sand to the top of the right thigh. Yeah, again, if you're knee concerned, don't put the sand on your knee, right? That's not a great idea, not right on the knee. because it would just bring that hyperextension to happen. Okay. Hyperextension happens. So as the leg is lifting, the belt is a pulley at that brainstem. Now, again, you can bring your hands inside the belt, stretch the arms back with the belt on the side of actually it's on the top of my hand, but my thumb, it pulls between the webbing of the thumb and the index. And that can be a really nice stretch. That can feel really good. I like that one as well. I feel a little bit more into the possibility of my calf stretching on this one with the belt behind my head, right at the shelf and just above for me. Yeah, we can't say that everyone's going to have the belt on the occiput. It just doesn't work for everybody, right? So nothing lower than the occiput, right? We're not below the shelf at the back of the head. I mean occipital bone, right? Not occipital lobe or temporal lobe or frontotemporal or although it is cerebral, right? You have the belt around it. Okay. Hold in your brain. Yeah, and feeling where you have that little bit of lift through the neck. Maybe let go easier, letting your head rest back into the belt. Yeah, it's both worlds. Belt's getting pulled by the foot, head's lowering back into the belt. It's a nice kind of tug, isn't it, for the muscles? Great. Now, just slide the sand off of that right hip. And as you bring your hands to your belt, you're going to reach the hands, slide the belt off the back of your head or off of your hands. You can just come back to holding. And let's take both feet up into the belt. Right leg goes up, left foot is still there. And then just push out the feet into the belt. So a wide stance. Yeah. Holding might seem like, well, you don't have to. Maybe you're fine without, but it's not a bad idea, right? It might feel like it's a little more controlled as long as the stretch is easy in your arms and your wrists, right? As long as that's okay. Okay, and if you let go and the belt's all connected and buckled and stable, you might like to feel a little bit more range. And that's the nice kind of flush that we get when we go upside down with the legs lifted, reversing that gravitational pull on the heart and the lungs, and even more so into the muscles and the legs. And I drain it out. So just feel where there's that natural arch through the spine. All right, now bend through the knees. Reach the hands up to the belt and pull. Slide the feet to each other. And as you bend the knees a little bit, you just slip the belt off your feet. And we'll take our bolster for a moment. I would just let the knees go side to side. If you want to place a ball between them, I think that's kind of helpful here for the hip motion. But as you bend knees side to side, a little bit of pressure into the hip. It's pretty mild. So feel that side to side balance into the hip bones. And the next time you come in center, bring the knees to your chest, hands on the bolster, push it down from the back of the pelvis so it's right next to the rear. Not too close, but not too far. You want to find that you can place your feet on the bolster comfortably. I don't want it too close so it hurts your knees. I want you to find, if the bolster is too close, you might have to place more pressure on the knees when you push into your feet. So find just the right amount of heel pressure And then place the ball. If you don't have it between the knees, now is a good time to add it center of the knees. And then you're going to push into your feet and lift the hips up into a bridge pose. Okay, arms reach back overhead. Just feel that motion into the hips. And then lower down through the spine. Arms lower down besides the hips. Okay, now let this one be a real curiosity here for you. You want to kind of do some self-searching. So when you lift and lower, there's no requirement that it's going to be better if your arms move with you. Okay, you want to feel that when you lift that you are inching up the spine, but also the pack of muscles besides the spine. So feel how the glutes have to work so much to get the hips up. And then as you apply the pressure when you lower down, it's kind of interesting, the pacing of it. So when I lift up, I want to find the right amount of grip in my glutes. Not too much, not too little. I don't want to tighten my back more, so I've got to lift up my hips, stretch out the front of the hip bones. Okay? And the next time you lower down, okay, let's just take the knees into the chest, and we're going to use the ball. We're going to place it under the right buttock again. We did this earlier, but we didn't have this type of weight reference. We didn't have our feet up on something. So now massaging into that right glute. Now you can feel that when you push off into the hip, the knee swerves out to the side. That's kind of nice to do. It's just pressing across, right, the glute. So hip swerves a little left to right, stretching into the hip. It's funny because massage is stretching, right? It's introducing that stretch motion into this area. Relax the hands, the arms, however you're comfortable. Really bring the focus into gliding across the kind of glute border. It's going to feel attached from the rear into the hip. And then go to the other side. Over to the left side, or the other side you didn't just do. Only two sides. Thank goodness. You may be laying on the weight and feel that it's a little different on the second side. Right, the areas that need that pressure, that are feeling kind of gripped up, might not be the same. You might have to find a different location where it's tight. Okay, rub it into it, so you're rubbing to warm it up before we take the deep hip stretch here coming up. So get a little bit of extra pressure here on the left hip, and then you just let the weight drop down. Keep rolling if you want. No one has to get out of the rolling focus, but as we lower the right hip down, we're going to take our left foot and push the bolster to the right side of our mat. And as the bolster is actually off our mat on the right side, you're going to roll on the right hip to bring the left leg on top of the bolster over on that right side. Place the ball so it's at the sacrum, and then add your sand carefully to the upper outer left thigh. You know, sometimes your belt goes along with you. All right, so sand goes up onto the outer thigh. And feeling that kind of the leg is launched over. You know, not for everyone this feels easy on the back. So if at first you feel you have to kind of compensate and lean deeper on the right hip, that's okay. But spend some energy on opening up the left side, not just stretching into the lower left side. The whole left side's getting the work. It's from the arm. It actually starts from the hip, right? And then moves up from the root of the hip and the pelvis to the ribs and then to the heart. It's kind of neat how it progresses, how we got the pelvic basin, right? It's like a pot, and then as it moves up in the body, right, as far as up towards the heart center, and then we open up into the limbs. Breathing. And you're pretty cool after all, huh? Whatever feelings you got, you're pretty interesting being. So breathing, see if you can find some experience of movement in the rib cage. Even with just the inhale, that's fine. Now slide the sand away. And then when you shift the ball out, maybe let the knees shift side to side, feet about hips distance or a little wider. Roll through the bottom of the feet from the side to the other side to massage into the glute. And feel that the knees movement is more important here than the hip movement. So you're actually rolling across the bones. When we had the ball under, we were pushing the hips side to side. Now we're letting the knees go side to side, letting the hips stay pretty stable. Okay, so it's a little different. And then we take our bolster and we toss it over to the other side of the mat. Okay, now bring the right foot across to the bolster so left leg relaxes. Let the left leg bend a little bit. Don't try to keep it rigid and straight or have to push the wall. But as the right leg crosses over, I like to have a substantial amount of height under my head for this one. So if you have the blanket too low, you might check that out. Again, you don't want your upper back to round too much at all. So keep in mind, having the blanket there is for just support, not necessarily for moving our spine and deflection. That's not our hope. It's kind of the opposite for the mat. So add some sand to the outer right thigh and keeping that feeling. If you don't have a ball, you don't need to worry about it. Sometimes it's a nice little anchor and sometimes it doesn't feel like it does anything. Okay, but get a feeling of the right arm open, the chest wide, the shoulder rolling around and down on that right side, and breathe. Just feeling the circulation into the rib cage and into the hip. Just gathering your attention on that even rhythm of your breath. If you have a little clutching going on into holding the pose, just notice what can help you release. Maybe it's giving that leg permission to slide a little bit down versus higher up to the left. No, never know till you just sort it out. Now slide the sand away. See if you can stay with the focus here with this mid-body support, and then let the ball move aside, roll to your left side, come up and take your bolster right up at the base of the wall. Okay? If you want and anticipate a little more height on the bolster, you can always add a blanket on top. I find that to be a little challenging. It's an extra amount of inversion, so some of you might have aversion to extra inversion. So it's okay to just sit up on the bolster and then get on the edge of it and then swing the legs upside down. Okay, so as you work your way, whether the seat is close to the wall or it's not, either is fine. Don't think so much about how I have to have my rear at the wall, but that you want the legs in, just have that inversion. That's the key, is legs upside down supported. Okay. Sand can be on the feet. Sometimes it feels good to be weightless with the legs. So weightless legs is nice. They spend a lot of time having weight on them. So I can see a world where sand is good sometimes, and sand it's helpful because it intensifies that flow of lymph. So it's a good one for our lymphatic and our vascular system to have that weight, reversing that gravitational kind of pull on the heart, or the effects of gravity on the heart. So you get to decide, right? Because there is a lot of effect of gravity in our heart. So if we rest back and we let our head relax back into the blanket, the hands can rest onto your core, If you have that other blanket and you just want to put it on you, that might be nice, or an eye pillow, but just center so that you have the right amount of support here for the body to receive the effects from the whole practice. This is the kind of the moments when the cumulative effects come in, right? So we can center our brain on our breath, even if it's for 5 seconds. But experience that movement of the fluids back towards the vital organs, right? It moves the blood from the extremities to the vital organs. You're just giving yourself this beneficial kind of soak, right, in the core, up into the throat and the thyroid and parathyroids. So feel the belly lift and lower. Okay, now as you start to bend through the knees, let's give ourselves a little bit more time with our legs at the wall, but just take the sand away. So you could toss it overhead. You could just slide it over to the side. It's kind of up to you. And as you feel that hinge at the hips and the knees, you might just slide them back up and just let them separate. Nothing that's going to press on the knees, right? I don't necessarily think the feet together, we've done that already, just something that flushes out around the knees and then back into the strength of the hips. So it is a little bit of weight right into our hips. I mean, we've got our legs upside down. We usually step on them, we always step on our feet. So just feeling some circulation into the pelvis, pelvic floor. Right, the opposite of prolapse is this. Now bend your knees and then roll to the side and let your hands help you turn to come on up to sitting. All right, arms are helpful as we come up to a seat on front of our wall space on top of the bolster. Just lift up your head and just feeling that circulation in the ribs. And maybe all the way up into your face because you had your head down. And bring the hands up, sliding on the legs to join at the heart. Feeling that breath together. Let's unite in this virtual community. Breathing in wellness to your body and mind. And with exhalation,